Alright, so this is BMXer Girl. I'm going to teach you how to build a BMX wheel. This is a standard 3x 36 hole build. You'll need a rim. Doesn't really matter which rim you use. I'm using a new Colony Pinnacle rim. It's 36 holes, matte black, rounded. Technically not supposed to be used as like a rear wheel rim, but I'm going to use one anyways. And it's rounded, so you're not supposed to use brakes, but I guess you could if you really wanted to. I read brake list, so it doesn't really matter to me. It's a double wall rim. Haven't rode one yet, so I don't have a review for it. Since this is a standard 36 hole 3x, you're going to need 36 spokes and nipples. I'm using raw titanium spokes and black brass nipples. And you'll need a spoke wrench. I'm using a Park Tool wrench. This is probably one of the better wrenches out there. The most easiest one to use. And you'll need a hub. I'm using a Profile Elite front hub, 36 holes. You can use a rear hub if you wanted to. Just keep in mind that the part with the driver, whether it's on a cassette or a free coaster, the flange tends to be a little bit higher, so it calls for shorter length spokes, and the other side is usually shorter, so it calls for longer length spokes. If you have no idea what size spoke you need, you can go on to Google and type in spoke calculator, type in your rim and your hub and figure out which size spokes you need. Or you can call Albies or Dan's Comp or Empire BMX, and they can tell you the spoke sizes. I'm using titanium spokes. This is the second time I've used them, the same ones. I just laced another wheel and unlaced it, so I'm using them again. But if you have regular spokes, I'd recommend ordering a whole new set. They're pretty cheap, about $17 for a whole wheel, because spokes tend to bend, scratch, break, stretch over time, so it's better to have newer spokes for a stronger wheel. So let's get to start to building. We're going to do outbound spokes first. So that means that the part of the spoke, the bottom of it, where that little flat part is, that will be on the outside of the hub, not on the inside like this. So outbound spokes, the threads go out away from you, and inbound spokes, the threads come out towards you. So we're doing outbound, so the threads will go away from us. You're going to just pick any random hole and stick the spoke through until you see the flat part of it right here on the outside of the hub. Then you're going to find your valve stem hole on the rim, which is the biggest hole on the whole rim, which you can see right there. That will be your starting point and the point to go back to if you get lost at any point during building. So you're always going to start with the valve stem hole. Let's go back to the hub. So what we're going to do now is we're going to skip a hole. So we have a spoke. You're going to skip a hole and put the next spoke in one hole away from where you started. So it's going to go in right here. So then you'll have a spoke, hole, spoke. Then you're going to do the same thing around the whole entire hub. So spoke, hole, then you'll put a spoke in until you have 9. Make sure you don't put any spokes next to each other because it will ruin the wheel build. You'll have to take it all the way apart and start all over, which is pretty annoying. Alright, so you should have 9 spokes in, looking like this. Make sure that none of them go through the other side of the hub like that one did. So make sure they're all free hanging, and make sure none of them are next to each other. So you should have a spoke, no spoke, spoke, no spoke, spoke, no spoke, all the way around. Then you're just going to take one of your spokes, doesn't matter which one, just any random one. And you're going to find your valve stem hole on your rim. And you're going to stick the spoke in to the right of the valve stem hole. That's your first spoke. That's where you're going to go into. So you'll stick any spoke in there, doesn't matter which one. Stick it through the end until it comes out like that. Then you're going to take a nipple that you have. And usually I thread them on until you see no threads. So it'll be like that. I do this because when you get to the end of the wheel build, it makes the lacing part, like for truing, a lot easier. You'll have a lot less error. And not a lot of truing to be done at the end. Next thing you're going to do is once you have the first spoke in, you're going to skip 3 holes, so 1, 2, 3, and stick the next spoke in. Spoke that's next to the one that you put in for the first one. So you'll go skip, 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 and you'll put it into the 4th one. Try to show this. Sorry if my filming is crappy. It's done with an iPhone 6. So you'll put it in, skip, 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 next spoke in. And you'll thread it on until you see no threads. Which generally is about 4 or 5 turns. So it should look like that on your hub. So the first 2 spokes are in. Started with the one at the valve stem. Then you skip 3 holes, put the spoke in. So you'll do the same thing around the whole entire wheel. So for the 3rd one, you'll skip 3 holes. So spoke, 1, 2, 3, and you'll throw the next one in right where my thumb is. And you'll thread the nipple on until you see no threads anymore. The closer you are to getting all the spokes turned in, like all of the nipples turned to the same spot on every spoke, the less truing you'll have to do in the long run. This is what it should look like so far, first 3 spokes. And I'm going to go ahead and throw the rest of them in. So make sure you skip 3 holes, throw the spoke in, skip 3 holes, throw the spoke in. There's other ways to lacing wheels, but I find this one to be the most effective way. A little bit easier. And once you get the hang of it, all of it will be easy. So this is what it's looking like so far. With all the spokes going in. Just got one more left. So this is what it should look like. 9 spokes. Now it's time to go to the other side of the wheel. Alright, so we flipped over to the other side of the wheel. You're going to find your valve stem again, which is right there. That's where you first started. So the first time you stuck the spoke to the left, and now since the wheel is flipped over, it is to the right. So this is the first spoke that you ever put in. So next we're going to do outbound spokes for the other side of the hub, but this is where it gets a little tricky. So the first spoke that we started with right here is right there. So what you're going to do is you're going to look down the hub, like directly over it. So you can see these 2 holes, one's right here, one's right here. You're going to want to go to the hole that's to the right of the first spoke you put in, so it will sit to the right. And on the other side of the hub, you can tell that the spoke doesn't directly go through, so it doesn't just drop into this hole when you put it in straight. It goes in between the 2 spokes. So make sure you put the spoke on the right of the first one that you started with. Otherwise, it will ruin the whole entire build. Trust me, I know, because I've done it. So now you're going to do the same thing you did on the other side, where you're going to have a spoke, hole, spoke, hole, spoke, hole. And just do that all the way around, and make sure every single spoke is to the right of the first ones that you put in. Oh no! So I'm just going to fill in all these real quick. Make sure none of the spokes are right next to each other, and all of them are still going to the right of the first ones you put in. Alright. So now, you should have 9 spokes on this side of the hub, with spoke, hole, spoke, hole, spoke, hole, all the way around. So find your valve stem again, make sure you have that. Grab the spoke that you put in to the right of that one, and this is pretty easy. All of them are going to go into the hole right of the first one you started with. So for example, this next spoke, since it's laying to the right of the first one we put in, it's going to go into this hole, the first one on the right of that spoke. So you're going to do that for the whole entire wheel, all the way around. Alright, so this is what the wheel should look like after you put in the outbound spokes on the other side. Now what you're going to do is you're going to flip the wheel over one more time. So if you can't remember which side you have it on, find your valve stem. It's where it's supposed to be. So when you first started, you remember this one used to be on the left, now it's on the right, so this is the side of the hub that I just put the next set of spokes in. So you're going to flip the wheel over, right where the valve hole is, and you're going to turn the whole entire hub clockwise, so to the right. And now it's time to put in the inbound spokes. So you can just pick any hole, doesn't matter which hole on the hub, and you'll stick a spoke in to where it starts coming towards you, the threads. That's an inbound spoke. And you'll pull it through. So this is the fun part. So make sure the hub is twisted to the right so that all the spokes are twisted a little. And this is the one I just put in. You're going to go over the first spoke, which you can see right there, over the first spoke, over the second spoke, and under the third spoke. So over, over, under. You might have to bend the spoke just a little bit to get it under, which is fine, doesn't matter if you have titanium or regular spokes. It won't break because of this. So make sure over, over, under the third. So once you go under, you have 2 holes that you can choose from. Just kidding, you can only put it in one for the wheel to actually be built correctly. You're going to put it in to the second one, right here. So you're going to skip the first hole, put it in the second. So I'll put this one in and then I'll show you again. So that is the first inbound. Now you're going to do the second inbound. And you don't have to go in order of the holes. I like to, though. Keeps it a little more organized, but you can throw whatever spoke you want into. So this is the second inbound spoke. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go over the first one, over the second one, under the third one. So always go over, over, under. I need to bend it a little. And remember, not the first hole, second hole. So you're going to do that. Put the inbound spoke in, go over, over, under, until the whole entire side of the hub looks crossed like that. So I'm going to do that real quick. Alright, so this is what it should look like after you did all the inbound spokes with the over, over, under. So this is just one side of the wheel. So now you're going to turn the wheel over. And you'll do the same thing on this side of the wheel. So you'll do inbound spokes again. So just pick any hole that you want. Throw the spoke in. So this is the first inbound on this side. And now the spokes are going the opposite way. So see how this one is turning to the right instead of the left on the other side? This will be the first spoke you go over. So you'll go over, over, under. Just like before, but in the opposite direction since you flipped the wheel. And there will only be one hole left for you to put the spoke in. So you'll go over, over, under the third one, bend it a little, and you have one hole left, which should be directly in front of where your spoke goes, and that's exactly where the spoke goes. So you'll do that with the rest of the wheel. Putting the inbound spoke in, like this one right here that I got, and you'll go over, over, under. And then you'll put it in the very last hole that you have available. So you can see right here, this is the only hole left, so that's where the spoke will go. So you'll do that for the rest of this side of the hub, which I'll do that. Alright, so this is what a fully laced BMX wheel looks like. And none of the spokes are tightened or anything yet. That will be the next very time-consuming, tedious part, but well worth it the way that I show you. So all these are super loose. You do not want to ride your wheel like this. You'll end up eating crap. So don't think you're done yet. Find your valve stem hole again. Biggest hole in the rim. So mine right there. You can see it right there. So this hole is where I recommend starting from and keeping track of. So right where the valve stem hole is, start with this spoke. What you're going to do is take your spoke wrench and you're going to put it onto the spoke, this nipple right there. That's the first spoke right next to the valve stem hole. What you're going to do is you're going to make one full turn. So I like this spoke wrench because it's got a little dip in it right here. So say you start right here, a full turn would be all the way back to its original position. So that's one turn. So then you're going to skip the spoke that's right here on the left and go to the next spoke. So do a full turn on a spoke, skip the next one, and do the full turn wherever it starts. So all the way around one. Then you're going to skip it, go to the next, put it on wherever it starts, one. So you're going to do this all the way around the wheel until you get back to your valve stem hole. And once you get back to the valve stem hole, you're going to flip the wheel. So when you come all the way around the wheel and you come back to the first spoke that you just turned, Do not turn that one again. Keep your finger where it's at. Turn the wheel. And you'll be back at the valve stem hole again, which is right here. Then you'll go to this spoke. And you'll take the spoke wrench and you'll do a turn, skip a spoke, next one, turn, skip a spoke, turn, skip a spoke, turn. You're going to do full turns all the way around the wheel until it starts to get tighter. And you can tell if it's getting tighter by if you push the two spokes, if they don't move that much. So this is super loose. If it moves like this, it's tighter. You're going to do that all the way around the whole entire wheel. And it might take about 7 times on each side until it gets pretty tight. Once they start to feel really tight and you can't really turn the spoke wrench, then start doing half a turns. And then once you're barely able to move the spokes, like barely at all, that's when you'll stop truing. And the wheel should be really tight. And when you spin it, it should spin really straight. So both sides of the hub should be on equal sides. So like this side of the hub only sticks out a little, this side of the hub only sticks out a little. It'll spin super straight. If you end up getting a wobble or a hop, that's a whole nother story. That's complete truing. A hop is when the wheel goes up and down, and a bend is when it goes side to side. Bends that go side to side are super easy to get out. Hops are really hard. So the way that I showed you how to lace, by turning every single nipple about 4 or 5 or 6 times until all the threads are gone, and I did that equally around the whole entire wheel, it prevents it from getting a hop. And if you turn every single nipple, one turn, one turn, one turn, all the way around until every single one is tightened exactly the same, you shouldn't have to true it at all. It should be tight and it should be pretty straight. So I'm going to skip all the truing part and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Alright, so this is the completed wheel. Spokes are really tight, can't really move them. Yeah, so this is a traditional 3x 36 hole BMX rim. And I can show you. That is got a tiny, tiny, tiny wobble. That's about it, which is pretty good for just putting it together and not spending a lot of time on truing. The way that I lace my reels, usually they're pretty straight and I don't need to true after. Sometimes you might get a little unlucky and you might need to have it trued or true it yourself. I'm not very good at truing, so I've been getting pretty lucky with them being pretty tight and straight. But you can follow me on Instagram, BMXerGirl, BMXR_GIRL. Look out for some contests that I have on there for stickers, free parts, and subscribe to my channel for future bike checks, unboxings, how-tos, video clips, and pretty much anything BMX. So thanks for watching. Hope this helped.